like we was in school, there was throwing glass at black people and little kids.
I think it's gonna be all right if everybody come and stop being scared, because shoot, I don't think there's nothing to be scared of.
Let's begin. Could you please tell me a little bit about yourself?
Okay. I was born in Boston, in Brighton, which is it was a strange location. I'm on the line of Alston, Cambridge, Watertown. It's in that strange strip of near the Charles River.
Yeah.
Very isolated from any neighbors because I was surrounded by industry.
Okay.
We were the only house on our side of the street,
Okay.
all the way into Cambridge and all the way into whatever. It was a multi generational home. My grandparents were immigrants from Italy,
Okay.
and they lived in the same house. It was a four-family house, and traditionally Italians all lived in the same house. So I went to a Catholic school up until 8th grade, and then in the first year of high school was busing, when busing came. So I forget, it was 1973. Was that when it started?
Yeah. How old?
So I was 13.
You were 13 when it started.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about busing. Like, what was your experience?
Okay. Well, there's a lot of experiences, but I'll start with the very beginning. I felt very sheltered in a way because I was living in such an isolated part of, it wasn't isolated, it's strange to say. I was in the city, but I was isolated from like a sort of neighborhood. I had to cross a lot of like a major street to be involved in any neighborhood activity. So I stayed a lot on my own side of the street, a lot in my own world, in my own imagination. As an artist, that was okay because I invented my own world. But so I remember thinking, as someone who was brought up in a Catholic school, like with the busing and stuff, and from such a neighborhood that was very diverse already, like typically in the summer when I went to the pool, it was very diverse. A lot of Black people, a lot of Asian, a lot of the little girls from India with the, I'd be very curious as why they, had a marking on their forehead. So I was used to, and being so near Harvard University, I was in a transient neighborhood in some aspects with the college community flushing in and out. I didn't feel like it was going to be like any big deal. And I was going to be like, I probably had a little bit of a white savior attitude. Like I wasn't going to be one of those jerks who was going to be like mean to people who were different than me. And my mother was always very welcoming to other cultures. We had 6 kids and we were quite poor, and she would work a mother's shift in factories and oftentimes bring people from different backgrounds and nationalities home for dinner and would talk about their cultures and stuff. So I wasn't, prepared or thinking there was going to be any trouble. So I was very blind. And then I also had this strange idea that racism was over and the hippies took care of it, or I don't know, peace, love, understanding. I grew up listening to Motown and Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Wonder and all the wonderful, and even a little Grandmaster Flash in there. I don't know. I just wasn't expecting what I saw and what I experienced.
Mm. Okay. So tell me about your first day in like a desegregated school. What did that feel like? What was going on?
Well, at first, like leading up to it, it felt kind of exciting. Like I was almost going off to college because it's like, wow, I'm getting like out of the neighborhood and I'm going to meet new people and that kind of vibe. But also in the neighborhood because obviously I did have when I crossed the street. I was older now. I could cross the street by myself and all that. It's like major avenues. Storrow Drive on one side, Western Ave on the other. Um, there's a lot of rumbling. Some of the, I want to say, typical people I could expect to be ignorant were being ignorant and saying, oh, I'm not, going to do that. And my family's moving. And, I can't believe it. I can't believe you're going to like let them send you to this other neighborhood and da da da. And I'm like, whatever. I mean, one of the choices that I chose was a school. I had a list. It could be either they had, I'm sorry, they had districts, and my district that I was directly connected to was Roxbury, and it was a very short, which is a predominantly Black neighborhood, is a very short bus ride. Well, and in Brighton, in any direction, you could be a short bus ride from any neighborhood in any culture. And one of the things that I liked about the possibility of Madison Park, it had an arts focus, and I wanted to grow up to do something in the arts. So luckily, that was that. The first day was chaotic, I guess, and I didn't have the experiences that were playing out in the news at all because I was a white person going to predominantly Black school.
Okay.
So I was like also disheartened. Well, there was like I said, a lot of chaos and people just very rambunctious, so different than a very controlled, small Catholic school that was predominantly white and Irish, which I'm white but not Irish, whatever. I felt like an outsider there, being Italian and Lithuanian, but so it's very chaotic, and I was shocked that there was such a big difference in culture, in sort of expected behavior. I mean, I would get in trouble for chewing gum.
Okay.
In my school, I would get in trouble for not standing in a straight line. So sort of like there was no, just so different, and so that was the first day, and I became increasingly anxious as the news stories would roll out and the violence I would see playing out on TV, and that was making me super afraid to go to school, and I wasn't really making friends like I thought I would. I felt very isolated.
Okay. Yeah. So tell me about your experience of race in a predominantly Black school. Like, was it obvious? Was it overtly spoken about, or was it subtly spoken about?
Oh, it was overtly spoken about. Well, right. What came rushing back was at that time 200 years worth of prejudice, and it's like almost like retribution. You're just because you're white, you're going to pay the price for every white person who wronged me. So there's a little bit of that, and I actually kind of accepted it. It was like you're right, but I didn't like it, and I didn't know what to do about it. And it's horrible to even say this, but I felt for 4 years, I got just the ever so tiniest bit taste of what it was like to want to be invisible, because I didn't want anyone to be white in a Black space. And now to realize this is every day for some people. This is every damn day. Like to want to be invisible, I started to develop a lot of anxiety and mental health issues around it, to want to be invisible, wearing my hair over my face.
Yeah.
I got a perm. I let my hair be its natural color, which is dark, much darker than this. And I felt very sad, and I wanted to fit in, and it's just nobody wanted to fit in with me. And it was just, the mixture of, I'd go home and I'd cry, and my mother would say, kids were just mean. All kids are mean. They're trying to be adults. They're trying to, people are trying to find their place in the world and try to feel where they fit. And I just never fit in. But I never fit in even in my neighborhood. So
Yeah.
I just figured it was just going to be more of the same. I don't fit in. I don't know where I fit in. So I did go to a half-day program in Jamaica Plain that was it was fashion illustration, which I have horrible fashion sense. It's very bohemian and it's very whatever, but some people would say I have no fashion sense. But I like to draw, so I liked the illustration part. And it's really funny how that school broke down into race. A lot of the Asian kids were taking cosmetology and were super glammed out with these wild hairstyles, and a lot of Black girls were in my class and did a lot of sewing and very creative stuff, but I didn't make any friends there either. It was just not a thing. Whatever. There were a bunch of kids from my neighborhood, or people that I knew of, white kids, that also went there, probably like 6 of them. And after the first year, they all dropped out, and I was the only one who stayed. And they were like, "Why are you staying there? You're crazy. They're so mean." It wasn't safe to go to the ladies' room. It wasn't safe to walk down the street unattended by yourself. It just wasn't a safe time. Everyone was angry, and I totally understand that anger, even more so. I mean, even more so today. I'm furious that anyone has to live like this. Just beyond furious that anyone has to feel like they want to be invisible. That anyone has to live with that trauma. Absolute. The word's right. But so I stayed, and one time, I think maybe I was even close to being a senior or maybe a junior. I'll never forget this day. I would come into the class a little bit late so that everyone was settled. I started to develop like coping mechanisms. So that everyone was like settled and in place. And then I would leave at the end when everyone left. And I was letting everyone leave, and I was doing some drawing, and a Black girl stopped and said, you really draw some smoking clothes. And I just was like, I didn't even make eye contact. I just said, thank you so much. That means so much to me. Because like I didn't want to like incur any wrath or have anyone see me or have anyone confront me or tell me I was being all that or whatever. It was just meant so much to me. It was like somebody saw me. I was seen. I felt like so amazing. It's like I can be a person, and I just felt so like even more deeply like the need for change, and I'm just so sad that things have not changed, and people don't feel safe, and people feel like they even in the office, I will notice that. Even a predominantly minority majority campus, are all Black and Latino and Asian campus, that people don't feel that they get driven away. Like the Black girls want to stay in a Black space and get like wearied from being in our fragile white space all day, and I want to be with them sometimes, but I'm like, I gotta back off and say, no, they've had enough of you. They just want to be okay. And just allow that and be like, all right, this is your space. You can have other times with them, but let them just have their own hang time and stop being like a wannabe. But yeah, it's just hard, and I didn't even understand. I couldn't even sometimes fully understand everything that was going on, and I would see things on the TV and be like, "You are making it hard for people who everywhere." It's like you people are being such horrible assholes.
Yeah.
You're throwing rocks at buses. What do you think's happening to the people who aren't in predominantly white schools? If you even like cared about society getting together and tackling these issues together and working together, instead the dichotomy and the is just driving us further apart.
Yeah.
And the teachers were ill prepared. I had some teachers who would run out of classrooms if there was someone acting up. There was one day I had to get all my hair cut off to like almost a whiffle because I had so much gum thrown in my hair that day
Yeah.
that it just couldn't come out. So that was kind of embarrassing to have to go to school with barely any hair.
Yeah.
And I remember I was sitting up front and I just kept feeling like
Things hit you.
things hit me, and then the girl behind me kicked me through the chair. She was kicking me through the chair, but she couldn't really get a good hold, and for doing nothing but just going to school while white. So I'm assuming this also happens all the time to people just being black. I'm just a color, and this is what's happening to me, unprovoked. And I picked up my desk and chair after my head was completely full of gum and after being kicked, because it's like, all right, now you've actually hurt me and probably given me a very bad bruise.
Yeah.
You've been kicking me all class. I picked up my chair and desk and threw it at her and ran away, and then I started cutting class all the time.
Okay. Yeah.
I spent a lot of time on Boston Common, and bad things were happening there. There were homeless people, or like scammers, people trying to like maybe human traffic me, people trying to get me high. And I was in a nearly suicidal state, really.
Yeah.
It was bad. I never went to the bathroom at school. I do not know, after, let's see, 2 years. We were in temporary housing for 2 of the 4 years before the school was actually built in Roxbury.
Yeah.
And once the school was built, I never went to the bathroom once. I never went to the cafeteria once. I never went to the gym. I have no recollection. If you put me in that school today, I would not know where anything is.
Because you didn't go to any other places for a fear of your safety, or
For fear of my safety.
Yeah. Wow. Did you talk to an adult about what was going on, and what was their response?
I did. It was such a weird time that I also understand now, and it's so fraught. I had one English teacher that I would like, she would like confronted me after a writing assignment, and she said, well, because it was dark, I was like, this person has emotional problems. And she was like, things aren't so bad. And I was feeling like, oh, Whitey McWhiterton from Yale, who's, the white savior going to come to the inner city and straighten us all out. F you. I was like really upset that, she couldn't have dug deeper. And some other, our principal for a time was white. He used to be the principal at Brighton High, which was my hometown high school. And he would like fight people if they got they would have fist fights, gentlemen's fist fights. And that was kind of cool. And kids really respected him. He was like amazing. He was such an amazing person, but I felt like those people were out of my access. There was one teacher who I've thought so many times, and actually she might live in New York now. Her name was Maria Levinson, and she went on to be the head of the whole Boston school system.
Yeah.
And then she went on to something else. She was amazing. She was like maybe 5 foot tall, little skinny Jewish woman who could command the world. She was afraid of nothing. And she wasn't in anyone's face, and I wanted to be her so bad. Kids behaved in her class. She didn't tolerate disrespect, but she didn't, she wasn't, I don't know what her special sauce was. She just had self-respect.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be her. I wanted to be her. I wanted to get what she had. I just wanted to be able to travel through life with confidence and bravery, but I was just nobody. She'd probably never remember me, but she was everything to me. And I wasn't an incredible student. I wasn't good at anything or whatever, or remarkable in any way, shape, or form. So, but I would just think of her and try to be like her, and still to this day, I don't know what her special sauce was.
Yeah.
I just don't know what it is that she had. She just didn't tolerate disrespect, and she didn't disrespect others.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I want to meet her and like see what her special sauce is.
Yeah, you should see. I think she might be teaching in New York, or a professor emeritus or something. Maria Levinson is her name.
Yeah.
If you can search her out.
I will Google her. Yeah. So you told a teacher and they didn't do anything. Did you ever talk to your parents about your experience? Like, did you tell them that you were going through a tough time, and what was their reaction? What did they do?
Again, my mother was just, kids are mean, and she would go to, when my father was growing up, everyone made fun of him because he always smelled like garlic and he was Italian. And she said he had the benefit of living in an Italian neighborhood. And she would just share discrimination stories, not of black and white or Asian or whatever, or that type, but she would say it was hard for her as a Lithuanian person coming to live in an Italian household. They would speak Italian behind her back and call her a stupid Polak, and really mistreat her, which is very common for Italian mother-in-laws to mistreat their daughter-in-laws anyway. But she spoke Latin, so she would confront her all the time and say, "Ma, I can speak Latin. I know what you're saying." But she would basically just try to tone it down by saying, people are just rude and mean, and you have to aspire to better than that. And as Catholics, we weren't quite like Protestants. We didn't, say live like Jesus or anything like that. But she says, you know better. You know right from wrong. We taught you right from wrong. You have to, learn to get along in this world with people who are different than you. That's the way to be.